about a lot in this video. Not only are we going to be talking about the airman who set himself on fire, but we are also going to be spending a good amount of time talking about indoctrination, not only the possible indoctrination in the military, but also left-wing indoctrination as a whole. We're going to be here for a while, so make sure you guys stick around.
Air Force member who set himself on fire in Washington, D.C. has died. This happened outside the Israeli embassy on Sunday. Investigators have identified the man as Aaron Bushnell of San Antonio, Texas. It is believed he was protesting the Israel-Hamas war. The Israeli embassy said in a statement none of its staff was injured, all were safe.
Watch breaking.
And you wonder why it is that people do stuff like this. I'm obviously roughly about an hour or so late to this story, but seeing how it is that an Air Force veteran by the name of Aaron Bushnell thought it was a good idea to go to the Jewish embassy in Washington, D.C. and light himself on fire. He, by the way, is dead now. And then I see this tweet that I actually literally just saw right before I opened up my phone to do the recording of this video from presidential candidate Jill Stein. The woman's a nut, by the way. I just figured I'd go ahead and throw this out here. And you wonder why it is that people are taking stuff like this a little bit too far. I understand there's a war going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but once again, people on the left don't exactly look into the actual things that are going on. And there are obviously people on the right who don't do this as well. Myself, from time to time, I get it wrong as well. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But if you actually looked into it, you would see that the current president right now is trying to implement some policies or trying to re-implement some policies that actually restricts Israel's movement into certain settlements. I will leave the article in the description box. This video right here is designed to talk more about exactly what it was that pushed this guy to do this. Then you would see that any type of posturing the current administration makes or any type of posturing the current administration does will ultimately just end up being fruitless because these people have absolutely lost their mind.
A man in the hospital tonight after setting himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm Delia Gonsalves. This all happened right on International Drive, causing several road closures along Van Ness Street and Connecticut Avenue. Our Alexis Wainwright joins us live from the scene with brand new details. Alexis, we know this is still developing, but what do you know so far?
Well, good evening. Tonight, I can tell you that we are still working to learn what exactly led up to this, why this happened, and who exactly this man is. What I can tell you, for the past 5 hours, U.S. Secret Service has been outside of this embassy here, right where this man lit himself on fire. If you take a look behind me, you can see those burn marks where that fire started. Something else we want to show you is this scene video where all the different agencies were there who responded this afternoon. U.S. Secret Service, MPD, and DC Fire. DC Fire says they received a call around 1 p.m. and when crews arrived, they found a man who set himself on fire in front of the Embassy of Israel. The fire was put out and the man was taken to a local hospital. MPD's explosive ordnance disposal team was also requested to the scene in reference to a suspicious vehicle that may be connected to the individual that was later towed. Now, we do know that MPD is leading this investigation. Tonight, they tell us that man is still in the hospital with critical injuries. Of course, we'll continue to follow the investigation, and all of this is still ongoing right now. I can also tell you, Delia, within the last 10 minutes or so, we saw more police here taking pictures of those fire marks. So obviously a lot still developing here, but we'll continue to update you as we learn more.
Now, guys, that right there was the old report. That right there was the report that basically showed you that the guy at the time was in the hospital. Now, here's the updated report.
Aaron Bushnell out of San Antonio, Texas. And live here on the scene early this morning, we did see a police presence, but right now it looks like the embassy has actually moved out their own guards out in front, and there's some cones in the front. But we want to warn you that this video, it's disturbing. However, we're not showing it. Initially, though, it was live streamed by Bushnell. In this video that you can see that he starts by walking up here in uniform to the Israeli embassy, identifying himself by name as an active member of the Air Force. Again, it's been confirmed that he is Aaron Bushnell, 25 years old, out of San Antonio, Texas. And in the video, he says he will no longer be complicit in genocide and is about to engage in an extreme act of protest. A short time later, he pours a liquid over his head from a cup and sets himself on fire while shouting "Free Palestine" until he collapses and police come to help. Now, a car was being investigated by police shortly after this incident. That's been cleared, but now the ATF and Secret Service, they are looking into the details surrounding this incident. In D.C., I'm Jacqueline Quinn, WS.
And here is roughly 20 seconds of the video that he posted to social media, first on Twitch, which is a gaming streaming platform. Don't get me started. We'll probably have a video on that in the near future. And of course, somebody got a hold of it and put it on YouTube, which of course they got it from Twitter. They edited it so that way nothing, of course, that is, let's just say, with something that would violate YouTube's terms of services, let's just say that it won't do that. It should not, because this video was obviously a YouTube short. I wonder what it is that is driving these people to do such crazy stuff. Now, I want to say this before we go any further. This right here is probably going to be the only video that gets released on Tuesday. Going to be kind of busy. And of course, Tuesday night, there's going to be a lot of content coming out. A lot of content being made for Wednesday and Thursday. But here's the thing, and I need to say this right now before we go any further. This guy right here, and it's still baffling to me how it is that this particular individual was able to get to Washington, D.C., seeing how it was that he was stationed in San Antonio. He got up there, was wearing full uniform. Well, not full dress uniform, but he was definitely wearing his camis, which, of course, it's very interesting that we're having this conversation that was an airman from San Antonio, because this right here was recently one of the bases that, let's just say that a lot of guys started registering Democrat for voting identification purposes here recently. It makes you wonder if there's some radicalization going on in the military, which, by the way, I called with the whole social justice worry, but we'll talk more about that in the second half of the video. Fact of the matter is that this guy right here, many people are dismissing this as mental illness, but it could be something else, and here is what it could possibly be. One of the complaints that I heard about this is that the officers approached him with a pistol and not with a fire extinguisher, or not with a hose. The guy who brought this up, of course, was Tim Pool, the guy with the beanie, but I'm not here to rag on him, even though I'm definitely going to be bringing up something that he talked about as far as the story is concerned, because obviously left-wing radicalization and indoctrination is going to be a theme of this video. Here's the thing. When a guy is lit himself on fire like this, especially in front of the Israeli embassy, and he is basically screaming free Palestine and I will no longer support a genocide, it makes you wonder if maybe you should approach him with a pistol out rather than a fire extinguisher. Here's the reason why. Because you don't know what may happen. You guys obviously saw in the old report that his car was towed. One of the reasons why they would tow his car is not just to be taking the car, but they would also want to check to see if there was anything in there, like, I don't know, evidence of any type of Islamic radicalization, evidence of, I don't know, maybe a bomb was inside his vehicle, something like that there. Obviously, security measures are going to be taken on this situation, and seeing how it is that he is at the Israeli embassy in our nation here in Washington, D.C., you probably would think to yourself that obviously this guy right here could be, in fact, be a security risk. So, yes, you would approach him with a gun out rather than with a fire extinguisher, even though he did, in fact, get put out. Obviously, he's a little bit charballed. Obviously, he's no longer with us. I don't mean to be an asshole or a jerk. I don't mean to be a dick. But fact of the matter is, this guy is definitely burnt to a freaking crisp. And if you ask me, just one less radical in the world. I kid. YouTube, please don't beat me up for this. Obviously, this is a tragedy. Somebody got radicalized. They went out there to this embassy. They decided to light themselves on fire. And obviously, this person is no longer with us. We have to say that to keep from getting banned from YouTube. But either way, though, getting back on topic, the question at this moment in time is that was this person radicalized? Was Mr. Bushnell one of these guys who got soaked up with propaganda, got soaked up with so much left-wing crap that this person suddenly said, you know what, I think it would be a good idea that if I go to the embassy, which, by the way, is normally heavily guarded, which for whatever reason wasn't in this case here, or else this entire thing could have possibly been prevented, meaning that somebody could have ran out there and grabbed him. But still, as I said before, you would obviously approach him with a gun out because God knows what he may have on him. I mean, take it from a guy who's been deployed overseas, especially to the Middle East twice. These people have been known to stick things up their rear and use that as their mechanism to blow other people up. I'm just throwing it out there because obviously it happens. I'm not saying that this airman was doing this, but obviously it's a security risk. But back to what I was saying before. The topic at this moment in time, the thing that's been going around about this entire situation is that they believe that this person may have been overly radicalized, meaning that they may have gotten a hold of a lot of left-wing propaganda. Now, me, I am not in favor of censorship unless, of course, it's something like, say, you see in the schools, like, say, with the whole let's just say those books that have been passed around to these kids, stuff like This Boy Is Blue, Genderqueer, stuff like that. Obviously, those types of books and stuff do not need to be near our children. Obviously, that right there is age-restrictive content or content that does not need to be given to kids. Outside of that, I'm not in favor of any real-time censorship or anything like that. Now, when it comes to something like, say, pornography or whatnot, I do believe that age verification needs to be made. And of course, it needs to be harder to attain. I think it's a drain on society, and we'll probably talk about that in another video, the actual effects itself. The thing you got to understand about this particular situation here is that people are already speculating that based upon the things that he was saying before he decided to light himself on fire, it's very possible that he got a hold of ultra-left propaganda and, of course, the whole pro-Hamas stuff, and that right there's the reason why he did it. I tend to think this person was obviously radicalized, as you guys could obviously tell. I mean, I really and truly have no idea where else to go with this because, as you guys obviously saw, you've got a tweet from a presidential candidate basically saying his sacrifice will not be in vain when clearly and obviously this guy right here was an enemy to the country. Which makes you wonder if the social justice warring in the military, if this right here is not a result of that. Let me go ahead and talk about this before we go any further. Here's the problem with the social justice warring of the military. And I'm not saying that this right here was the case, but definitely something that you have to look into, something that could have been the case. And I'm pretty sure some more information will come out in the next few days. The whole, how do I say this? The whole woke curriculum or the whole woke indoctrination of the military. The reason why the social justice warring of the military is should be looked down upon and should be gotten rid of is because you could possibly be creating troops that may hate their own nation. Now, I want you to think about this for a second because I've said this in a lot of videos, okay? And we're going to start bringing a lot of those takes back over to Claymore going forward, mainly because of the fact that I think they have a better chance of actually reaching and actually taking off here. And, of course, Gear Issue 33, which I'm probably going to add Semper Gummy to the title, is going to be more military focused as far as movies and history is concerned. But the thing that you have to understand about this particular situation is that when you social justice warrior the military, what you're doing is you're pulling guys who are coming from very, very patriotic families, and you're basically indoctrinating them with stuff that, quite frankly, is anti-American. When that right there is the case, they may get out, they may go home, they may be anti-American right away, they may be ripe for indoctrination, and of course, they may even begin to hate the United States even while they are actually serving. The last thing you want is a political military. The last thing you want is a military that you, quite frankly, cannot trust. And I have said this right here before, and this is something that the Beanie guy did report on a while back that I talked about on Gear Street. I'll try to link the video in the description box, which will come up, we'll talk about more towards the end of the video. Something that you got to understand is that, and I said this a while ago, that you typically tend to recruit your troops from patriotic families, families that actually love America. Even if you have a few that are working class voting Democrat, of course, you're going to pull people from working class families. That's normally where they come from. The actual left itself, the military, is not, how do I say, it's not something that the left actually likes. They don't actually have any desire for that. As I've been saying for a very long time, these people would much rather burn down their own nation than burn down somebody else's, or like in this guy here's case, they'd much rather burn themselves than burn the enemy. The thing is this right here. If you have a military, or if you have guys who are in the military who hate the nation, then obviously the people back home are probably not going to feel as secure. They're not going to have as much trust for an institution that 100% of the nation should, in fact, have some trust into. Meaning that you should be able to trust the men and women who serve the nation to actually love America. You would think that's the case, but it looks like they're trying to go out of their way to make sure those who serve actually hate the United States. But here's something else, too, that must be considered is overall indoctrination itself. And is it possible that these people are being indoctrinated before going in? Look, it just simply says airman. That is the only information that we've gotten. We've not gotten the amount of time that he's been in the military, the amount of time he's been in the Air Force. And like I said, it's still kind of weird to me how it was that he got from San Antonio to Washington, D.C. I mean, is it possible he was born in San Antonio? Is it possible he was born there and that he was stationed outside of D.C.? Is he stationed at one of the air bases in Virginia? Is he stationed at Dover? Of course, this information has not came out yet. I think the mainstream media might want to kind of pick things up right now and give us some more information on this. We need to know. But speaking of that beanie head guy, speaking of that bald-headed guy, we now have to get to the conversation of indoctrination and exactly what it's actually.
Officials were still notifying next of kin Monday, and will not officially announce his death until 24 hours after that is complete, the outlet said. But here we are, we know. A harrowing video live streamed on Twitch on Sunday afternoon appeared to show the serviceman dressed in uniform standing in front of the embassy and identifying himself as a member of the U.S. Air Force. Quote, "I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I am about to engage in an extreme act of protest, Bushnell reportedly said before setting himself ablaze, repeatedly crying out, "Free Palestine." I'm not going to play the full video. I'm only going to play a clip of what he was saying. And we won't show any of the very extreme stuff here, okay? But I want you to hear his words.
Is Aaron Bushnell. I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all.
That's what I wanted to.
Sounds to me like he's been listening to Hassan Piker. It sounds to me like he's been listening to a lot of left-wing indoctrination, the pro-Hamas crowd. They keep on telling you that they're pro the Free Palestine crowd, but obviously this is not the case. They're a little bit more on the pro-Hamas side of things. Makes you almost wonder exactly how deep it goes. Now, on the other side of the second half of the clip, I'm going to be talking a little bit about, let's just say, indoctrination as a whole, especially the way it is now. But it makes you almost wonder if this person right here, well, like I said, we don't have his actual MOS yet. We don't have his actual job title. It makes you wonder exactly what he was doing. And also one more thing, too. It still baffles me, and I'm going to say it one more time. What the hell was he doing in Washington, D.C.?
I want to show any of his video, and it's bad enough that it went up on Twitch and all that stuff. I suppose people have a right to see it, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to point out the words he just said and what this means. Experiencing a genocide at the hands of their colonizers. I saw a video. There's an interview with Chaya Reichik of Libs of TikTok and Taylor Lorenz. And it's actually, there's many parts that are pretty funny. But of course, on the right, people are saying, Chaya has absolutely destroyed Taylor Lorenz. And on the left are saying Taylor Lorenz has absolutely proven Libs of TikTok to be so stupid. For those who aren't familiar, Chaya Reichik, I'm trying to pronounce it properly, is the individual behind Libs of TikTok. And I think there are, there's a back and forth there for sure. Certainly, I think Libs of TikTok could have had some better answers, and Taylor Lorenz certainly did not come off as all that intelligent, but it is what it is. And I watch this, and I look at the utter indoctrination of someone like Taylor Lorenz, and she's wearing...
Now, there is this thing about Libs of TikTok versus Taylor Lorenz that, of course, gets brought up here in a second, but I'm going to save that more towards the end of the video, especially when we look at the final clip. But let's go ahead and answer this one. Like I said before, we still don't have full information on exactly where this guy... I mean, the only thing we know is San Antonio. But I want to say this before we go any further. All right, and I want you guys to kind of ponder this for a quick second. After the 2022 election, it was found out that that 3 separate Air Force bases located in Texas, where let's just say the Democratic Party and the left as a whole was becoming much, much more popular in those areas. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh my God, the military is turning Democrat. No, that's not actually what's happening. What's happening is that the administrative section of the military, this also includes the Army, it also includes the Marine Corps, it also includes the Navy. The administrative side is actually becoming much, much more liberal, where the combat arms side is becoming more and more and more conservative. If you're in the Marines, and me, of course, being a prior service Marine, then you're going to know that everybody's a rifleman first. Even admin clerks are rifleman first. So chances are this is probably not going to be as big of a problem there. Typically, the way the military votes is anywhere between 60 to 65% Republican and roughly about maybe 5 to 10% somewhere in the middle. But somehow or another, the middle is becoming much, much more further to the left. And of course, what's really happening is that the administrative side of the military is becoming much, much more left-wing. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about guys who possibly could be radicalized. If you are working as an admin clerk, by the way, I'm not doing this to insult admin, even though my MOS was tanks, so I got to ride around a vehicle and blow stuff up and train to blow things up. Chances are, if you were admin or administration, chances are you're probably going to be in front of a computer more often, which means there's also going to be a lot more downtime for you to watch, guess what? Possible content on Twitch, possible content that may be not just on Twitch, but possible content that may be here on YouTube that definitely swings to the left. What I'm saying is that you're getting your political indoctrination is a little bit more available for those who are definitely on the side of the aisle, those who would be inclined to go to the left, or people who are not exactly, how do I say, training on an everyday basis. Now, granted, I understand the infantry personnel and combat arms personnel are not available to train all the time, not available. Let's just say that their phones can obviously still be around them, but chances are, if you're in the field, or chances are if you're going to the field, or chances are if you're training or doing the actual physical hard work, chances are you're not going to be able to take your phone with you at all times. So therefore, you're not going to be able to actually look at this stuff. Not to mention the fact that when you are in a job title that requires you to actually physically do some type of work, like say, and I understand that obviously in the Marine Corps we got rid of tanks, but when I was in, you were at the ramp. Same thing with Motor T. You're working on vehicles. They make you do stupid stuff. They make you basically work the entire day. However, if you were in the administrative or supply side, the more administrative side field of duty, chances are you're probably going to have a lot more downtime. That downtime is going to leave basically a vacuum in the day, or it's going to leave this great big giant block in the day where you sit there and just consume content. That right there may be what the hell could be going on in this case. But of course, we do in fact need some additional information on what exactly is going on. Let's watch a little more.
Seemingly for no reason, and they live in these very distinct and separate worlds. But in this, there's a question that Haya is asked about the harm being caused by the issue of transgenderism. Haya just says over and over again, it's a lie. And a lie is harm, a lie is bad. And Taylor Lorenz says, what's the material harm? And I think about this because, obviously, I can give you very substantial examples of material harm as to leftist ideology in general, including gender ideology, for which I will. And it is self-harm. It's suicidality, as we're seeing right now. What is the harm of these far left social media communities getting unfettered access to spread lies and misinformation? People kill themselves. That's what they do. On the right, we don't seem to see all that much. In fact, as much as they claim the right is spreading mis and disinformation, what's the worst thing we've seen?
Now, I didn't mention this earlier, okay? And this right here is where I'm going to, for the most part, try to close this video down, because obviously there's been a lot to talk about here. But the thing that I want to put out there is this here. This little debate occurred over the weekend. It was a debate between Taylor Lorenz and Haya Raychek of the girl who created Libs of TikTok. A long time ago, there was a beef between these two. Bear with me just for a second. And of course, the beef between these two involved Taylor Lorenz doxing Haya Raychek. The left really hates Libs of TikTok, okay? Libs of TikTok, by the way, was absolutely hilarious because you would see all these crazies and they would see their TikToks because they would post them to TikTok like a bunch of idiots. Of course, they kind of exposed exactly what they were trying to do to our kids in school. Now, we'll talk about wokeness and the futility of it here in a minute. But the thing that I want to put out is that Taylor Lorenz herself, she got upset when she got doxxed, and she went out there and she started crying about it. As a matter of fact, Haya Raychek is actually wearing a shirt with Taylor Lorenz crying. It's absolutely beautiful. It was one hell of a troll. But of course, the interview to me, I think, was very interesting. As a matter of fact, that interview was supposed to be the reactionary video for Monday, because I was going to do a video responding. The thing that I wanted to clamp down in said video was the fact that Taylor Lorenz is wearing a mask. Have you guys seen it where people are still wearing masks when they're driving? People are still wearing, it's 2024. COVID, for the most part, ended in 2021 even. Me personally, I never really wore a mask when it happened here. I just didn't wear one. Nobody really said anything to me about it. And I lived in a state that was locked down. Why are you still wearing a mask? Now, I don't think that Taylor Lorenz is as controlled as others, but seeing how it is that I just saw a really good video on Starship Troopers the other day, and they were talking about the bugs and how easily they can be controlled and how productive members of society were because they didn't think. It was a video that was made by the aristocratic utensil, slowly but surely becoming possibly my favorite political commentator here on the platform, maybe next to Greg Foreman. But the thing is this right here. I don't think that people on the left are allowed to think. I think that they're allowed just only to consume. And of course, them constantly consuming crap, of course, makes them perfect marks for the indoctrination. But the thing that I wanted to say is this right here, because Tim was alluding to this earlier. Now, of course, he would bring up the right at the very clip. I may have cut it a little bit earlier. And he said, what's the worst the right has done? What, 1-6 or 6-1? And I don't even think it was even that bad, because it basically just boiled down to a riot. And, of course, we've also seen the video footage of cops letting the people in, especially the shaman. But the thing that I wanted to say is this right here. A lot of these people don't seem to realize, but they're actually marching to their own death. And let me go ahead and kind of break down how that's happening. A lot of times I will use Tim and I'll compliment him and say he's right, or add on or piggyback or try to fill in the blanks, and sometimes I'll even criticize. But one of his best moments online was the debate that he had with Lance from the Surfs. And of course, there's this moment here.
You think trans people feel safer than ever?
No. Right now, there's over 400 different bills being pushed in the United States that is directly targeting trans people.
So they don't feel safe?
Of course they don't.
So then why are they coming out if they don't feel safe?
They have more access because that generation, Generation Z, has a lot more acceptance towards trans people than older people who pass laws, draconian people who pass laws. The boomers are the ones running the show right now. They're still the ones in government. They're still the ones passing laws. There's very few Generation Z in government or parliament.
You want to know what I think? I think there is a trans genocide.
Okay.
And I think it's you.
Okay.
Because you're sterilizing a lot of...
And of course, what he's talking about is the fact that this said population has a 45% SD rate. Okay, think about this really quick. You have a certain political class, a certain group in the country. They're called conservatives, who've been having 2 children per household since 1996, and liberals have been having roughly 1. To go on top of this, you've also got this other thing that happens. And yes, my knee just popped if you guys heard it, so I apologize. But you got this other thing. The left tends to abort their kids, and they abort their kids all the way to the moment of birth. They want to transit their kids, and they basically want to cut off any possibility of reproduction. It's also the most medicated class, or the most medicated group in America, especially white liberals. It's also sexually the least attractive. It's also the group that, quite frankly, is the most morbidly obese. So therefore, it's probably going to die a lot sooner. It also, at the same time, is not only that, but it's also, to go on top of this, it's also the group that is got the most amount of mental disorders. I'll link everything in the description box. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to say, if they got this far into the video, they're probably going to say that I'm full of crap, I'm lying. But all you got to do is just look at their influencers to know exactly where these people are mentally. The fact of the matter is that the leftward audience is ripe for indoctrination already. It's almost like people have chosen to take advantage of these people. Let me say one more thing right quick before I put an end to this video. I'm very, very pro Second Amendment. I am not in favor of red flag laws at all. Okay, never will be. Okay. Steven Crowder had and I can kind of somewhat agree with, but even this right here to me is still somewhat, how do I say, well, let me put it this way here. Basically, what they're saying is that if your next door neighbor, if they sign red flag laws in the law, then you should have the right to confront your accuser. You should have the right to confront the person that, of course, made the accusation, called you crazy. I agree with that 100%, but then again, at the same time, I don't agree with red flag laws. I don't think it should exist, period. I understand some people will say, well, you don't want the mentally ill to get a pistol. You don't want the mentally ill to get a weapon. The problem is that the mentally ill, those with mental disorders, and by the way, I'm not saying this to be a jerk or be mean, I'm just being realistic. And I learned this when I was in the law enforcement academy, is that those who tend to be mentally ill are the easiest and most acceptable ones to manipulate, meaning that they are the easiest, most acceptable ones to get to commit crimes. What I'm saying is that even those who can be taken advantage of should be allowed to be armed. The problem is that the current left in society, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you may already know this, they are at a point in time where they, quite frankly, are already ripe for manipulation. I'm using it as a bit of an idiom to kind of explain that people like Taylor Lorenz are the worst types of human beings on earth. These people take advantage of the people that they want in their group. It's really a great big giant cult. Of course, they'll tell you that if you voted for Donald Trump, you're a cultist, which of course is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard. But the point is this right here. The people who are on the left, they are in a cult, and they are definitely being controlled. I also believe that the Free Palestine crowd has also fallen into that cult, and a lot of them were already a part of that cult, and this right here is the activity that you're seeing. This right here was a guy, an airman, who actually chose to self-delete, set himself on fire in front of an Israeli embassy. Let that sink in for a second. And a left-wing presidential candidate said this person's sacrifice will not be in vain. Just think on that. Guys, tell me what you think. This is probably going to be the only video that gets released on Tuesday. I'm moving the He Gets This video to Wednesday. Just additional information needs to be gathered. I may try to do it tonight and then try to get it out tomorrow as a nighttime video, but I'm looking to release this video probably right around 3 o'clock. Got some things going on earlier in the day, so it could be a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get that content out to go along with this one too. But please, make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.